Jam. Toon Jam.
Hello and welcome to Toon Jam. I am Matt.
And I'm J-Man.
And today we are treading on what might be seen as familiar ground. We are watching, once again, the Animaniacs. You might be saying to yourself, guys, you've already done the Animaniacs. Oh, you'd be right. But this is quite different because this is the reboot, the 2020 TV series. So let me tell you a little bit about it. It's an American animated comedy musical streaming television series developed by Wesley Wild and none other than Steven Spielberg for the streaming channel Hulu. It's a revival of the original 1993 animated television series of the same name, created by Tom Ruegger. The new series sees the return of the Warner siblings, Yakko, Wakko, and Dot, voiced by the original actors, along with Pinky and the Brain, who are also voiced by their original actors. It was first announced in January 2018 with a 2-season order, and Amblin Television and Warner Bros. Animation producing. The first season premiered on Hulu in November 20th. Let me get that out. 2020, while the second season premiered on November 5th, 2021. So fresh stuff. A third season has been ordered, so there will be more, which is, I guess, good news for Animaniacs fans.
Yeah.
So let me just tell you a little bit about how it got to this stage. Early stages of developing the revival of Animaniacs at Amblin Television and Warner Brothers Animation began in 2017. The interest of the revival was driven by a surge of popularity for the show when it was made available on Netflix in the US in 2016, plus numerous successful projects that have revived interest in older shows such as Fuller House, etc. I guess just throw a stone and you'd hit any reboot is what they're trying to say on that one. The broadcast rights for the new series also included rights for Hulu to stream all episodes of Tiny Toons Adventures, The Old Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain, and Pinky Elmira and the Brain. Hulu considered the show its first original series targeted for families. Wild and Star developed the revival to be respectful of the original series as closely as possible. Wild stated, and this is a great quote here, "There's lightning in a bottle here, and the first thing I'm going to do is keep that lightning in the bottle vigilantly."
Okay.
So, oh boy, that's, says it all, really.
Yeah.
According to Wild, Spielberg was at every pitch meeting and insisted on maintaining most of the elements of the original show, including the original voice cast and orchestrated music, as well as producing the show as typical of most animated shows with full writers' room, in contrast to typical children's animated shows. Spielberg was also heavily involved throughout the storyboarding process to make sure that the show was heading in the right direction. According to Wild, both Wild and Swore stated that Spielberg wanted the revival to be more political satire, to feature more political satire, and they found a middle ground between that and being a children's show. So yeah, there you go. That's essentially Animaniacs, the new version. We're there now. It's come out. It's 2021 now. We've got season 2 on the go. Had you watched this before?
No, I hadn't seen any of the new one. I'd heard that it was about, but since there's a billion remakes and reboots of everything in a minute, it was kind of hard to keep up. So it just kind of didn't was just one that didn't sort of like get picked up by me, or I didn't cross its path. So no, what about you?
No, the same. It was one that I remember hearing a lot of buzz about before it started and thinking, oh yeah, I can't wait for that to come out. And then it came out and I heard nothing and I forgot. So, that's why
sometimes that's just how it goes, though. Yeah.
in 2021. I guess some news must have popped up about the second series, reminded us just why we're here. And there you go. Well, so it's fresh to both of us. Obviously, as you will know, as I've said before, we watched the old one. So we've got that to compare it to, but otherwise it's completely fresh. So let's take a look at the reception for this. This is always a bit of fun. Okay, I'm going to start with the IMDb rating. Can you take a guess at what you think the IMDb rating is?
I'm going to go 6.8 for this one.
Ooh, close, but no cigar. 7.8.
Ah, I got the 8 right.
Yeah. 7.8. So fairly healthy score there.
Yeah.
Now let's head over to Rotten Tomatoes. This is always
the real test.
The real test.
Yeah.
This is a difficult one. So obviously we've got as always, there's the average tomatometer or tomato meter. I still don't know the best way to say that. We should probably decide on one. And the average audience score. So let's start with the audience score. What do you think that is?
Yeah, so it's got to be like 85% somewhere around there.
Ooh, it's not too far off.
Bit high.
Bit high. It's 78.
Oh yeah, that's not too bad then.
So not too far off. Okay, and now for I'm going to call it the tomatometer because it's more fun to say.
Yeah.
What do you think that is?
This is always a tough one. This one. I'm gonna. I mean, it's pretty high audience reviews really. So I'm gonna go 100% on this one.
100%.
Yeah.
Is wrong.
What?
Yeah, not 100%. It's 90%.
Ah.
So yeah, gutted.
I
can tell you
not
though,
even worth a watch then, really, at that point.
Well, in a way, you weren't wrong because if we're going by seasons, the first season was rated at 81%.
Oh.
But season 2, 100%.
Oh snap! They found their groove.
So there is 100 in there somewhere.
Yeah. As always with Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, there's got to be one there somewhere. So, but in general, high reviews.
Yeah,
we've got good reviews from the usual platforms. But what is Twitter saying about Animaniacs?
Yes, well, there's a lot of talk about both seasons on Twitter. It generally seems to be pretty positive. We've got Mitch Fletcher 5 who says, "Animaniacs 2020, the gift that keeps on giving, and so far hasn't stopped giving."
Extreme stopped there.
Oh yeah, stopped was all caps hard.
Oh boy. So yeah,
I would have probably put all caps on the hasn't maybe, but yeah. I like the way Mitch mixes it up.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes that's what the moment calls for.
That's it. It's you got to adapt, haven't you? Really.
Yeah.
Well played, Mitch. So yeah, happy with that. We've got N4 Mia who says Animaniacs 2020 season 2 is better than the first one, to be honest.
Oh well, that falls in with the 100% rating.
Certainly does, and then as if some further shock about season 2, which spoilers, but probably not spoilers because obviously there's a season 3. We've got non-binary BB who says the Animaniacs 2020 die at the end of season 2 ? ? Oh
boy.
So
there's a roller coaster ahead of us.
yeah. Oh man, yeah. So things could go awry, but this is season 3, so I'm guessing they don't
Yeah.
actually die. Or maybe
I mean,
season 3 is like, another reboot.
Maybe it's just Pinky in the Brain.
Yeah. It could happen. It could happen these days.
Yeah.
It's not completely off the box. We have BDH Draws with a Z. He says, Animaniacs 2020 to present. I'd like it to focus less on politics and include more of the supporting cast besides Pinky and the Brain. It's enjoyable nonetheless, and I'm looking forward to season 2.
That's interesting, because I was reading about the lack of the supporting cast. So when it comes to a lot of the, the other characters in the shorts from the older series, they rarely feature, and when they do, it's a cameo.
Right.
And this is because a lot of the sort of the characters and humor involved around them is considered to be quite dated now.
Oh, right. Okay.
So, for example, they update things because is it the pigeons were a parody of Goodfellas?
Oh yeah.
And obviously that film is pretty old now. People just wouldn't. Kids don't know what it is. No one, adults know what it is, but it's just not relevant.
No, they're gonna have to do like The Irishman now to make it on point.
Yeah, so I guess it might be a case of we'll see some new characters maybe.
Yeah.
Apparently, here's a bit of a fun fact. They had attempted to have a segment feature Freakazoid.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but this fell through due to actor availability.
Ah, harsh.
Who knew he was so busy?
I know.
I mean,
Freakazoid.
Yeah. What's going? But I mean, maybe in the future.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Season 3.
That would be wicked.
Come on. Yeah, that would be cool. It's pretty funny to know that like it was Spielberg who was pushing the politics as well. Like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting, and goes right into our final quote from Twitter from Cobb Critic, who says, "When people say Animaniacs 2020 is bad for being too political, when the 90s show made fun of Clinton in every other episode."
Yeah, I mean it did.
So that's
hilarious.
Fair point.
In the one episode I've seen, he is also featured in this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is strange. Maybe that's just a case of like when we were all younger watching this as a kid, we just didn't notice those political jabs as much.
Yeah, I really think that's the case, because I think when we went back and watched it, the original one, I'm sure there was loads of bits that I was just like, I just wouldn't like, that would have completely gone over my head as a kid.
Yeah.
I'd just been like, huh. And I mean, there were still references that we didn't get because they were too out of date. Like they were talking about, like, I guess celebrities or maybe political figures that we were like, who's that guy?
Yeah.
Like we still don't know.
Yeah. But that is something I think has existed throughout all. I mean, even in Looney Tunes, there would be every now and again a parody of an actor of the time that even when I watch it now, I'm like, I don't know who that is.
No.
Just some weird looking guy that they're making fun of half the people they are, because it just becomes part of the character that you know, and you don't even realize that they're being satirical.
Yeah.
Some of this stuff. So that might be a lot of it. It's hard to say, we've not seen all of it.
No, and it is sort of a sign of the times as well, like just how keyed in to politics everyone is now, and just like the presence of political figures and stuff. The fact that they're everywhere, and they've got Twitter accounts and stuff, so it's a bit different than like when it was just like you had to purposely focus in on the news to know who was who, sort of thing.
And it's just, I mean, it's been a crazy few years as well, isn't it? Like politically.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can see why they'd want to like capitalize on that almost. So yeah, it would be interesting to see that play out a bit. Like I said before, we've only watched the first episode as always.
Yeah.
Just to get that fresh take on it. So I mean, what were your sort of first impressions going in?
The opening scene I really enjoyed, which was like the Jurassic Park thing. And then it was just like recreating the scene of them first arriving in Jurassic Park, and the Animaniacs with the prehistoric beast that they saw on the horizon. And yeah, they basically approached everything in that scene as being like, it looks exactly like the old stuff. We've got, but we're in widescreen. We've got like really smooth lines now. Like it's a sight to behold. And then opening scenes was like the titles were almost virtually the same, but they have added new bits and pieces, which was nice.
Yeah.
So that was, it hit you. It was a really sort of homing rocket into nostalgia there, because it's quite literally like scene for scene the opening of the original show sort of thing. And then you've got those little twists as well. So I mean, I think that was a perfect setup to sort of get you in the mood for what they're about to bring to you, really. Like I can't think of a better way that they could have really sort of happily made you be like, oh, it's a reboot. Because sometimes it's a bit jarring if things are too different, and then at the same time you kind of want some of the old stuff, but then sometimes it's not different enough. So this is like a nice, it was a clean remake of what you knew. So,
and I think it's that kind of I think it kind of existed in, with Rocko's Modern Life, the is it Static Cling or and it kind of had that kind of feel where it is a reboot, and obviously times change, and it's a very big part of the story for at least this episode is that times have changed, and that it's a reboot, but at the same time it's almost just like another series. It doesn't feel like, and as much as they claim that they are a reboot, it just feels like a continuation.
Oh yeah, it really does. It's like they have just been in stasis for 20 years. What is it? 22 years they say on. Like, so yeah, it does feel like that, because it's what sort of thing. And it's a weird thing as well. Like Animaniacs is very much its own thing. It's like there's not many shows like Animaniacs. Like nowadays we see like the trends of cartoons and stuff, and you can probably be like, well, regular show is kind of, that's kind of like Adventure Time with Slackers, and then the animation style of virtually all kids cartoons at the minute is like, we've got like a real similar look going on. Same with adult cartoons. Like you can really see the evolution from show to show. Whereas like Animaniacs was, especially the jokes and the fact that they do have like political humor overtly in there and stuff. It's very much like that was just that show, really. Like there weren't too many that were sort of doing the same thing that they were doing. And like fair play to them bringing back the score as well, like to have that theatrical kind of, the music. That really, I think that does a lot to sort of make it feel like it's an old, we're back in the 90s and we're watching it again,
definitely,
sort of,
because as well it's not like that the music is a sort of timeless when it is orchestrated, as opposed to it doesn't put a timestamp on it. It creates, it's like its own feeling, and that adds to the Animaniacs sort of Warner Brothers-y vibe, because what's so good about it is it's like it was a modern day Looney Tunes-esque cartoon. And it still has that feel where it's, even though it could fit in easily with that world, it doesn't at the same time. And it is, I think the 90s obviously were the time when it was like we had our first adult cartoons, realistically. So like The Simpsons. And then obviously we had some stuff on MTV that we've been through and things like that. But it was still a kind of place where they made cartoons for all ages at the same time. And I think that is, we've talked about it so many times, but it's definitely something I think is lacking today. Like everyone's so targeted with their audience that it kind of makes everything a bit more like like in theory that should make everything so different. But it doesn't. It just feels like you have kids cartoons and you have adults cartoons, and every now and again someone will do this and it will create something that feels fresh. Because I think that it's almost like that when you and your kid can both enjoy something for different reasons and be completely like, you know, it goes under the radar. Like there's something in this where there was a joke where they said, I think it was in the Pinky and the Brain segment, where he says, "Do you know what the internet's used for?" And he's like, "I'm pretty sure I do, but I can't say it." Like it's like one of them jokes where, as a kid, you wouldn't even get that, and it doesn't matter like if they hear that because it won't.
They haven't said anything.
Like whereas for you as an adult, you can be like, as if they just said that sort of thing.
I know.
But I mean, it can get out of hand. It doesn't in this, I don't think. It didn't in this episode anyway. But we've seen it. I think Ren and Stimpy did really kind of take that too far. I think at times.
The subtlety was absent in Ren and Stimpy.
But when they do it properly, I think it's just so good, and it's definitely missed. So it's nice to see this. Like it did feel like when I saw that joke, I felt like it's weird because obviously we watch stuff all the time from the 90s, from around that time, and you think you just think, oh, this was the standard then. But when you see it in something new, it is like, oh, flipping it, they're doing that, and it did almost take me by surprise when you'd have thought by now it wouldn't.
For saying that we've got like explicit adult shows and stuff where you're like, you know, it's like no holds barred, just, you know, over the top gore and like violence and swearing and stuff. You'd think you'd kind of be desensitized to that, but like because it's like still in kind of a kid show, you're like, it's like a riskier move than someone being disemboweled on an adult show. Like, and I love it. I think I wish we had more of it, to be honest. I did laugh a few times at definitely like throughout this episode. Some good gags. There's some hilariously like targeted stuff as well, like all the Seth Meyers stuff was pretty hilarious.
And it's just like, imagine that's one of those things that, like, you know, as a kid, you especially in the UK, as a kid in Britain or the UK, what, you know, you don't know who that is.
No.
And it would take you a long time to find out who that is. But there's something to still in, like, that it doesn't matter as a kid. Sometimes you'll laugh anyway. You don't know who
his
it
face
is.
is silly or whatever.
It's like, I don't know who that is, but that's funny.
But that's still funny. Was there anything you didn't like going in? Is there anything?
Do you know what? No, I'd struggle. I think there was times when I was like, oh, this could be a bit like any time that people start making fun of social media, I start to worry, not because they shouldn't make fun of social media, absolutely they should, but it can often feel like old people that don't know enough about it making fun. Do you know what I mean? Like it can date the, not date it, but it can make you feel a bit like that's just a bit. I'm thinking, like, remember when there was that trial against Facebook and all the judges had no idea?
Like what it was.
And it can feel a bit like that. So the Pinky and the Brain stuff is all about that, and I was a bit like, oh, is it going to go that way? And it didn't.
Luckily.
So it's not at all, you know, something I didn't like about it, but it was something I was. There was a moment where I was like, oh, maybe. But then no, I didn't. There wasn't really much that personally I could fault it on. I really, really enjoyed it. What about you?
Yeah, I'm not sure there was really like. I think so. I feel like some of the songs kind of struggled to find their way a bit. Like,
Yeah,
like they obviously wanted to talk about some stuff in song form, and like they just, I don't know. Some were catchy, some were a bit like, yeah, you probably could have just said this out loud without the song, like.
yeah,
But like, it was still nice to have those sort of the Animaniac style of just really quick, witty kind of stuff. It was like full of lines that just kind of rammed into the verses and stuff, which was
yeah.
quite fun. So like some of them, I was like, oh, it's probably wasn't fantastic, but there was nothing like, there wasn't a moment where you're like, oh, they could have done without this song.
I think what I could say is it was almost like it was so aware of its absence and return.
Mm.
And it's like it's trying really hard to make a big impression on its first episode.
Yeah.
That was something that maybe, hampered it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because kind of, it's what you want is to just watch an episode of Animaniacs.
Mm.
And that, I mean, it didn't ruin it by any stretch, but it was just, that's, if I was to pick at something.
Yeah.
It felt
went
too
on a
much
bit long.
Like it almost felt like it was purposely not getting into its own groove.
Mm.
Which I wonder if, I mean, seeing the reviews and, the 100% for season 2, maybe that is a case of like it's too self-aware.
Yeah, it could be.
And the fact that, because they kind of say, don't they, that we wrote this a few years before it came out. Sort of thing. And it might be just a case of by the time the second series came out, it was just, a bit more on topic.
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
But no real, like I wouldn't really call that a criticism so much as it was just if I was trying to give it one.
Yeah.
So
you think it felt like authentically Animaniacs all the way through, pretty much? Yeah,
it really did feel like just a continuation. In so many ways, it just. But I suppose there are differences in it. Like I guess the change in the lack of a supporting cast is a big one, and then slight character variations. Just the way the social changes. Obviously, Dot's character I think has changed slightly.
Yeah.
She's a bit more like a bit more closer to what the feminine perception is nowadays, as opposed to the 90s feminine perception. But it was subtle enough not to be like box ticking.
Yeah.
Which is, that's exactly what you need, I guess. But I mean, loads of positive stuff. So with that mystery put at your feet as the listener, let's move on to our reviews.
Coming to Netflix this summer.
I'm Robert De Niro Pigeon.
I'm Al Pacino.
We've got a job to do. We're going to take out a couple of greenfinches. We've got a flyboy. We've got a hit. We're taking him out, spitting seeds at him faster than you can fly from A to B.
And they're mobsters and all, are they?
They're the worst kind. They're like us, but from the other team.
Oh, no. Oh, I hate those guys. I hate them.
That's right. One of them is possibly Joe Pesci, Greenfinch.
I'm sure I've seen his face. I've seen his face over the hill there. He's definitely there. And maybe Ray Liotta, he might be there and all.
No, he's down by the river with the other otters.
Oh, okay then. I know. It's the same type of faces around here with the mobster pigeons.
A lot of faces around here.
Speaking of faces, why is your face looking so young? You look like
I'm
you're
glad
fresh
you
from the egg.
noticed. I'm glad you noticed that. Fresh out the egg, that's right. And it's not because I am fresh out the egg. I'll tell you why. I'm on a diet of all seeds, sunflower.
Right?
It's a healthy dose of CGI. And
CGI.
I've been drinking Guinness out the bottle like a baby.
Drinking Guinness out of the bottle like a baby.
That's
That'll
right.
be it then. I bet that's the one.
That's the one. I think so.
That's the one that does it.
The others
Not
help.
CGI.
The others help, but that's the one.
That's the one that does it. So, how are you buying the Guinness if you're looking so young?
That's for me to know. That's for me to know and you to find out. Now, we've got a 3 to 4 hour. 3 to 4 hour.
3 to 4 hours.
3 to 4 hour.
No, when I find this out, it can't take any. It can be no shorter than 3 to 4 hours.
That's how
Let me tell
long it's going to take. And we've got a hit to make in that time too.
That time.
So there's plenty
Right.
going on right now.
That's why I've got this. We've got a sledgehammer here. I think we got a kneecap. You got a kneecap a fella or something.
That's right. And let me tell you something. You kneecap a greenfinch and you're going to get a mess.
I hope so. Because we've got 3 to 4 hours to do this. And I mean, I don't know what else we can do in that time.
We're running out of time, so we better go.
Well, this is it then. We're ready to do a hit.
Let's go.
The Irishman, coming to Netflix this summer.
Okay, so here at Toon Jam, we have a 3-point rating system that goes as follows. Thumbs up, Series 2, 100%.
Oh yeah.
That's good stuff. Thumbs down, reboots of things we just don't need. Like real reboots, so some are good, but let's be honest. We're at a time where originality is the most original thing.
Yeah.
Which, I'm aware of how that sounds. And shaky middle. Shaky middle, our knowledge of The Irishman. So, good, bad, I'm not really sure about that. That's our rating system, essentially. Yep. Animaniacs 2020, episode 1. Your thoughts?
I really, that opening really, that was a real roll the red carpet out for me. I feel like it was like, this is the type of humor. This is the look. This is remember the 90s. Do you? And I was like, yes, but it wasn't like trying to. It was using the best bits to sort of bring me back into the fold. And from then on, it was, the show is very self-aware and it knows it's a reboot. It knows it's, an old property. It knows that it's trying to modernize itself and stuff, but it does manage to do that in a way. Like, we do have a lot of talk of social media and the internet and stuff, but they put fun spins on it like that. I thought the whole Pinky and the Brain stuff was quite a fun way of, like, basically getting on board with the internet. Because Brain would use it as some sort of mind control device, and who's to say that he hasn't? So I'm sure that's very deep into a conspiracy forum of itself somewhere already. But yeah, it was fun. It was basically everything that you kind of loved and remembered about it, and they managed to bring it back in a way that it did feel like you just switched on to to TV from 20 years ago. Yeah, and I mean, I think as long as they keep the type of humor that you sort of expect there, the references, even though you may not get them all, as was always the case, still funny, still good, and it's really nice to have like the voice cast back as well. So everything sounds like it should do, from the music to the voices. It feels just like essentially like it's that clean modern version of the thing that you had before. So and no, not really any gripes with it. So how can it not be anything but a thumbs up for Animaniacs?
Thumbs up. Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said. I don't think that, despite a lot of what was said previously, or not a lot of what was said, but with there being too much satire for the show, I don't agree with that. I think, at least in the first episode, there was just enough, and nor do I think that it's a bad thing that they have satire in it. But I agree that it's just essentially, if something's going to reboot, this is the way to do it. It's got everything you loved about it. The humor's the same. The characters, have changed in the right ways. Even just down to like slight visuals on some of the extra characters, or changing of sort of the executives of Warner Brothers. They've changed that character and stuff like that. But it all works and modernizes it in the way you'd kind of want it to. And it's only reboot really in the way that they have modernized it. Everything else is pretty much, spot on. Yes, there's not the supporting cast, but that might not necessarily be a bad thing. And I hope that eventually, if they haven't already, they add new characters to it, because that would be something cool to see as well, something more relevant maybe. But yeah, I can't see anything to really complain about. If you like Animaniacs anyway, then you're gonna like it. If you have always wanted to watch it, you're gonna like it. It's a great show. It's satire, and it's kind of that thing. It's one of the best sort of, I don't know, not series, but kind of the best collection of cartoons from the 90s for me. Is the Spielberg cartoons. Yeah. I mean, and it's not that they were all great, because what was the Transylvania one we watched?
Oh yeah.
I can't remember what it was called, but that one wasn't great.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think it's just, there's definitely something to them, and it's cool to see them return. And hopefully, we will see Freakazoid, even if it's just in an episode at some point. That would be amazing. And other such cartoons in a similar vein, because, I mean, what's not to love? What is not to love? So thumbs up from me too.
Hey,
a double whammy and a good return to form. Yeah. Not just from Animaniacs, but for us, a nice another thumbs up. We're happy to watch, naturally. Okay, well, thank you so much for listening. Maybe you didn't agree with us. Maybe you did. Maybe you want to take it up with us. Well, feel free to do so on the 3 mind control devices of the internet: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at ToonJamPod. We love to hear your feedback, or if you just want to say hello, feel free to do so. Don't forget, if you'd like some bonus stuff, you can do so by heading over to our Patreon, where there's all sorts of bonus episodes for a small fee. And there's plenty on there. We cover all sorts of different themes and topics. I think we had a preview last week as well, so if you enjoyed that, there's plenty more. Otherwise, just like and share, rate and review and all that jazz. That helps us out so much, and it's free. So what is not to love? We also have a merchandise store, bit.ly/ToonJamShop, and you can get all sorts of t-shirts and different sort of things on there, all Toon Jam themed. Otherwise, once again, thank you so much for listening, and until next time, you stay jammy.
Hey everyone, thank you for listening. If you want to help the show keep going, you can be extra jammy by heading over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/ToonJamPod. Here you can get a shout out on the show or unlock bonus episodes. Ratings and reviews anywhere you listen to the podcast also really help us out. So thank you, and stay jammy.